Well, thanks so much for staying with us on The Real Story. All of Connecticut's constitutional offices are on the ballot this November, and the treasurer's race is open-ended at this point. The treasurer is looked at as the chief fiscal officer for the state of Connecticut. Incumbent Democrat Sean Wooden announced that he would not run for re-election, leaving the field wide open on the Dem side. Attorney Eric Russell won the primary, and he's hoping to take home the win. On the Republican side, State Representative Harry Arora from Greenwich is the GOP-endorsed candidate. Arora is the founder of an investment firm, and he believes the state's finances are being mismanaged. We're highlighting the race. Republican candidate for treasurer, State Representative Harry Arora, joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Jen, and thanks for having me.
Of course, we're glad to have you on. So I read your opinion column in the Connecticut Post, where you were just talking about your platform and what you think needs to change. You say that our state's finances are in poor shape. Explain that to us.
Well, Jen, there's a short-term surplus, which everybody's talking about. But if you look at our overall balance sheet or the debt which we owe, it has gone up from $65 billion 5 years ago to $100 billion. So anybody who says, hey, we are in great shape, well, if you owe $100 billion to other bondholders and unfunded liabilities, your finances you're in trouble. And that's what I've been pointing out. Just because there's a small surplus up front, that should not defocus us from the fact that we are big in debt.
Yeah, actually, that was my next question here. Because, people hear we have a full rainy day fund, that our coffers are overflowing. Where have we gone wrong? And that's just in the past, year or two because of the pandemic, right?
That's correct. Yeah, the past year and two, we have gotten a lot more money, and there is a small surplus. And I call it small because it's a couple of $1 billion here and there, right? When you have $100 billion, a $3 billion surplus, or even sometimes a $4 billion surplus, one time does not really move a needle. Now, I want to point out to you that the debt is divided into two big parts: the debt which we owe to the bondholders, and then the debt which is due from unfunded liabilities. Now, what I want to point out to you is over the last 5 years, both of those have gone up. Although we are supposedly on a debt diet, our actual debt outstanding has gone up by 15-20% over this period of time. We have not paid down any debt. We have taken on $4 or $5 billion of debt. And then it comes to unfunded liabilities. They have grown immensely by about $25 billion over this period of time. So we have really incurred much more debt, much more increase in our unfunded liabilities, and that is a big problem.
All right, so how does that impact the taxpayer at home?
Well, let's just put it this way. If you owe someone money, you can obviously put that off for a year or two, or a little here, a little there, but sooner or later, you're going to have to pay that. And there is only one source of income the state of Connecticut has, which is the taxpayers. So taxpayers, beware that if we don't attend to this problem or get too complacent that, oh, well, we have a 1 year great windfall benefits, let's just focus on the big picture. I always say, well, it's important to be tactical of what's going on today, but it's also, as leaders, it's very important for us to focus on the big picture and say, well, how are things going overall?
So in your position, if you became the next treasurer, what could you do to make an impact? What control does this office have over that?
So there are two really major things which the state treasurer can do. Number one is really where the impact is very large, is the returns on our pension assets. So a major source of our unfunded liabilities is the fact that we don't have enough money in our pension fund. We need $85 billion to be fully funded. We have $45 billion. So $40 billion of underfunding exists. Now, obviously, everybody says that we did not save enough or contribute enough in the last 30 years, and that's part of the problem. But what is not really discussed much is that we did not earn enough on the assets which we had. And that's a really big problem, because if you look at the last decade, especially period ending December 21, because the last 6 months, obviously, we have had major market changes, volatility, the stock and bond markets in our country performed quite well. As a matter of fact, if you look at the last 5 years, an index portfolio would have performed 9% or so This is an index of stocks and bonds, right? But our portfolio performed 3% points less. So when you really accumulate 3% points over that period of time, and you make 5.5% instead of 8.5%, you are behind by $5 to $10 billion. Now, this is billion with a B.
Right.
So what I really want to make sure is that our pension fund, our people's money, is managed for the maximum returns, to prioritize the returns, while at the same time investing in high quality assets in a responsible way.
Now, your opponent,
that has not been done.
Your opponent is focusing his platform around making socially responsible investments. Where do you stand on that?
Absolutely. We are always going to responsibly invest. But the point is that we are going to invest to prioritize our returns, right? These are not as conflicting as someone would make it. What we want to make sure is invest in blue chip companies in the U.S. in a strong index, in strong investments in the U.S. and some abroad, but make sure that our asset allocation as well as manager selection reflects the best we can do. And really, we are not doing the best we can do, because as I said, that if you put an index fund, which requires no much discussion, 80-20 index or 75-25 index, we would have made billions of dollars more. So that's not a discussion here whether we're going to be socially responsible. We're going to be always socially responsible, whether it be pension investments, whether it be whatever we do as a state. I don't think that's the question. But what we will do is we'll do our job. That's what my opponent has not been talking about. How are we going to do our job? Do we understand what our investments look like? I have already spent inordinate amount of time going through all the public disclosures available to understand our portfolio. And I know that there is changes we can make immediately, which will have higher returns. And by the way, we also are spending too much investment fees. We're spending about $150 million a year, which is about $750 million over the last 5 years. And what do we have to show for it? I'm all for paying fee if you have something to show for it.
What are you going to be doing the next 5 weeks to get your message out?
Well, we are making sure we go out and let everyone know that the Treasurer's Office can make a very strong difference in the finances of the state. The finances need help. It's also, the Treasurer's Office can also do a good job in improving financial literacy and helping our citizens with tools and information and unbiased sources of information to help them manage their own finances. And so I want to basically make a major change in the way the Treasurer Office is being run, by making it more efficient, more proactive, and most importantly, doing its job of focusing on managing our finances.
State Representative Harry Arora, thank you very much for coming on The Real Story and explaining your platform.
Thank you for having me, and look forward to being here again.
Well, we are going to be actually sitting down with Harry Arora's opponent in the treasurer's race, Democrat Eric Russell, in an upcoming episode of The Real Story. So tune in on Sundays at 10 a.m. for that conversation and to hear directly from other candidates before casting your ballot. If you want to watch these segments again, you can head to fox61.com, or you can download the Fox 61 News app. And of course, you can watch The Real Story every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 61. Have a great morning.